This is how I embrace my low season and failure. There are times when the numbers just don't reflect the heart you pour in. And if you're feeling that way, know you're not alone. For about a year now, I've poured so much energy into building my presence on TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. I worked 2 jobs, even hired an editor, while hoping to see some significant growth. But honestly, after all that effort, I've only managed to gather a few hundred subscribers. It's been a low season. So today, I want to talk about how I embrace my low season and my failures. It's not about magical fixes, but it's about shifting your perspective. And while we chat, let's make something comforting, a cozy drawing for a bookmark. The first thing I've had to constantly remind myself is a very simple, almost structural truth. If there's an up in life, there must be a down. It sounds so obvious when you say it out loud, but when you're the one sitting in the middle of the low season, you tend to view it as a dead end rather than a phase. We look at other people who are currently in their up season and we compare ourselves. But everything in this world is relative. You can't actually define what a high unless you have the low to measure it against. For a long time, I struggled with the feeling that my failure was fixed. I had this overwhelming thought that the version of me who was failing wasn't going to change. I felt like I was frozen in this low season. But understanding the rhythm of high and lows changed a lot for me. It broke that illusion of being stuck. I realized that our brains are actually quite biased. They find it so much easier to think negatively. When we are failing, we think, this is just who I am now. This won't change. But it's funny, if we truly believe that we are unchangeable, then shouldn't we also believe that once we are successful, we will stay successful forever? But we don't usually think that way. We worry about losing success, yet we assume failure is permanent. Realizing that life is a cycle of ups and downs helped me realize that I'm not a fixed point. Just as a high doesn't last forever, a low isn't a permanent residence either. I'm not the person who fails. I'm just a person currently in a low season. This shift in perspective was an anchor. It reminded me that the current version of me is just one chapter, not the whole book. My second lesson, and perhaps the hardest one to truly live by, is that everything is constantly in motion. This has become a powerful source of resilience for me. Our brains are designed to be efficient, and to be efficient, they oversimplify things. When we look at our lives and our analytics, our brains tend to put things into 2 big, clumsy boxes: success or failure. So, for example, when I see my subscriber count go from 100 to 101, my brain wants to immediately say, that's basically the same thing. You're still stuck. You failed to go viral. But that is a lie. A change from 100 to 101 is a change. It is a new person, a new soul, and a new connection. I've had to train myself to stop rounding down my progress to 0. Even though we say nothing is happening, the river is always flowing, even if the surface looks still. Recognizing that everything is always in motion, even subtly, reminds me that there's always a path upward, always a new opportunity. It might not be huge, but every small change is a proof that things are moving. And movement means there's hope. Always. My final and probably the most crucial lesson is this. I learned not to try and escape the low season. Life is a constant rhythm of ups and downs. If you fight against the down too hard, if you try to force yourself out of it, you just end up exhausted. You burn out. Instead, I've learned to accept where I am right now. If I'm feeling a bit down, a bit discouraged, I acknowledge that feeling. I allow myself to be a little more reserved, a little more introspective. We often have this habit of blaming ourselves for being down. We get frustrated with our own discouragement, and we tend to think that we need to fix immediately. But there is so much peace in simply allowing yourself to be exactly who you are in this moment. Instead of fighting the version of yourself that is tired and feeling down, my advice is try to offer that version some space. It's okay to acknowledge it. By allowing yourself to exist in this state without judgment, you stop wasting energy on guilt and start preserving it for your eventual recovery. You're giving yourself a permission to be human. By accepting the low season, I saved my energy. I realized that if you spend all your energy to the down period, you'll have nothing left for up period when it finally arrives. Life is a marathon, and think of the low season as your hydration stations. It's not about whether you lose the race, it's about you getting what you want after finishing it. So don't be afraid to sit with your discouragement for a moment. Be gentle with yourself. Do the small things you can manage. And trust that because you aren't fighting the rhythm, you'll be ready when you're turned back in. I created this bookmark with that exact mindset. I wanted to make something that could carry a small spark of hope for you. That's why I chose to draw this child with a gentle smile and a four-leaf clover. I wanted to capture that quiet lucky feeling of finding peace in a small place. My hope is that the warmth I felt while drawing this reaches you, wherever you are. I wanted to share this today because I know how lonely it feels when your effort doesn't seem to match your results. In a world that only celebrates the peaks, we often forget the downsides are where the real growth happens. So if you're in your low season right now, please remember you're not alone. You're not stuck, you're just resting, learning, and gathering strength for the next up. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Let me know in the comments if anything I shared resonated with you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!